Hello, hello. Welcome to the live. I am Coach Steph, registered dietitian, personal trainer, mindset transformation coach. If you are here, welcome. I'm going to be going over some quick tips on the foods that you should be eating if you have some fitness goals. If you are watching live, hashtag live, say hello. If you're watching the replay, hashtag replay and let me know that you are watching. So if you hear anything that helps you in this live, let me know. If you're wanting more help, more customizable help for you individually with your specific health goals, with your specific mindset needs, and you can apply to work with me inside the Fit Figure formula. The link is pinned in the comments, and you can just apply there by clicking the link, and we can chat about what it looks like to work with me inside the Fit Figure formula. So again, welcome to the live. I am going to be going over what foods you need to be eating in order to see progress. So a lot of times, I think this is why meal plans are so popular, because people a lot of times just want to know, tell me what to eat, tell me what not to eat, right? This very black and white thinking. And a meal plan will totally work because it tells you exactly what you want, what to eat. And you might get a result for a while. But if you do not know how to put together your own plan based on your own preferences, based on how many times a day you like to eat, based on the times that you like to eat, then once you get sick of that meal plan, you're not going to know what to do, right? And so that is what I help my clients learn, is how to create a meal plan that is balanced, that is full of things that you actually enjoy eating, and will help you reach your goals. So I'm going to be going over some of the foods that you need to have inside of your plan. I do not give my clients a meal plan. They learn how to create a plan for themselves, and they learn what to look for. So if you're not planning, right? So this whole live is really predicated on the fact that you're actually planning and eating intentionally. So that's part of it, right? So I'm going to go over like food today. I'm not going to dive into as much mindset, but I got to put a little bit in there every time. Are you eating intentionally? Ask yourself that question. Are you eating for a specific result, or are you just following whatever your taste buds say at the time, right? So if you're doing that, you're kind of like mindlessly eating, then your goals are going to be a lot less attainable than if you are being strategic. And so that is what I'm going to just talk kind of high level of like what you should be incorporating into your plan. Hopefully I can see comments. So y'all say hello if you can hear me. So I'm going to jump right in. So the first thing that we want to be making sure that most of our food is single ingredient foods. Okay. So number one, single ingredient foods. Are you eating intentionally? Hey, Laura. Only planning occasionally, usually eating intentionally. Okay. So when we eat, we want to specifically target single ingredient foods. These foods typically don't have a label. So things like avocado, apple, sweet potatoes, salmon, right? We want to make sure that most of our food doesn't have a whole lot of ingredients added into it. So have you ever heard like people say walk around the outside of the grocery store if you go to the grocery store, because most of the fresher foods, most of the single ingredient foods are there. When you go into those aisles, what you will find is a label, and included in the label is ingredients list. And that ingredients list typically includes things like preservatives, more salt, sodium, artificial sweeteners, things like that. And so they're really food-like, they're food-ish, right? But we want to choose most of our food that has a single ingredient, things that we could literally go outside and pick up and eat, right? So we want to make sure that we are including mostly single ingredient foods. And this makes meal planning pretty simple Simple doesn't have to mean boring, but I do find like sometimes people are like, well, healthy eating is boring or it doesn't taste as good. So I want you to think about going on an adventure to find healthy recipes with single ingredient foods, changing up the spices, different ways of cooking your food that you actually really enjoy, that can be super duper simple and very satisfying, but that are still simple, single ingredient foods. Why is this important? So it's really important because whenever you are eating single ingredient foods, the food has not been changed or modified, quote unquote processed, right? That's why we talk about like processed foods versus whole foods. Processed foods just means like this has been changed from its original state, right? From its natural state, it has been changed. So even like, say you had a whole pineapple, right? Like a big whole pineapple. Even technically, the term processed means changed from its original state. So if you buy pineapple that's already been chopped and cut up, that's what I buy because I'm not chopping it up. I don't know how to cut up a whole pineapple. It's still lightly processed. Like that's still processed, right? Because it has been changed from its original natural state, right? Which is fine. There's no problem with that because there's nothing added into it. But the more processed we get, we run into having lots of different additives to your food that aren't actually food. And a lot of times your food is actually partially already broken down. And this actually matters a lot in terms of the calories that your body is actually expending to break it down. I'm always really surprised when I eat certain foods, like if I eat out, and sometimes I don't feel like super satisfied. Like I can just like pizza, like if me and my kids get like DiGiorno pizza, right? You make it at home. And even my son can eat pizza. He can eat. And it's not super filling. And it's partly because the food, quote unquote, has been broken down already. And so your body doesn't have to expend as much energy, aka calories, to break it down. So if you are eating whole single ingredient foods like avocado, like apples, like sweet potatoes, etc., your body actually requires more calories, meaning that it takes energy to break down that food, right? You're going to be expending more energy just by eating single ingredient foods. Why does that matter? Because you can feel satisfied. You can, your energy expenditure, the amount of calories that you're expending for the entire day is actually increased just by eating, which helps with that calorie deficit, which of course we need that calorie deficit for fat loss, right? So just choosing single ingredient foods actually increases your energy expenditure, your caloric expenditure for the day. That's something so simple, right? So just kind of think about how easy that is to burn a little bit more calories by just choosing single ingredient whole foods, right? It increases what we call your thermic effect of food, the energy or the calories needed to break down your food. You're going to burn more calories breaking down single ingredient food because it hasn't been already broken down for you like processed food has. Okay, so we want to use the 80-20 rule whenever we are thinking and planning out our meals. So plan foods that you like, right? You can plan in some of your DiGiorno pizza or your whatever kind of processed food that you like, because we all have a little bit in our diet, right? So when you are looking at your plan, and I have my clients create their plan, right? I teach them in a very step-by-step process. We don't get to like planning our meals until like week 5 because I'm teaching them the correct way to go about it. So once we're in week 5, okay, I'm like, okay, here's your plan. You've created this plan based on your preferences, based on the times that you like to eat. And so are there foods in here that you like to eat, right? Like if you don't want to give up your bread, Laura, right? If you like to have a cookie, right? Have you planned in 20% of the foods that you like that may not necessarily be single ingredient, but that contribute to your enjoyment of your meal. And then is 80% of your meals single ingredient whole foods, right? So what I do is I actually give my clients a rubric, and I say, okay, if I give them like several things to kind of look for when we're talking about your plan and looking at, do we have vegetables here? Are there fruits here? Are we hitting our fiber goal, right? If you're not getting enough calories, here's how to add your calories in. If you're getting too many calories, here's what to do. If you're not getting enough protein, which is super important, here's what to do, right? And so, again, this is predicated on the fact that you're actually planning out your meals. And that doesn't always have to mean like your macros, but even just writing stuff down is super important. So 80-20 rule. So first tip is planning in single ingredient foods. Okay. It increases your thermic effect of food, which means just your caloric output. You're going to burn more calories simply by choosing single ingredient food. And you want to make sure that you're using the 80-20 rule. So 80% of your food should be single ingredient, and then throw in some 20% of some of the other snacks and things that you might like. Okay. So tip number 2 is drinking your water versus caloric beverages, which is kind of a no-brainer, right? Like if we're drinking alcohol, if we're drinking lots of sugary drinks, we can ingest that quite simply. It doesn't give us any nutrients. It adds to our calories, takes away from the amount of food that we can actually eat, and it doesn't actually satisfy our hunger. So you can drink one of the 32-ounce lemonades that has like full of sugar, but you're still hungry because that wasn't filling, right? And for me, I get frustrated. I love water too, so that's another just thing. Like if you struggle to drink water, we can talk about like how you can incorporate drinking more water. But if I drink lemonade, right, or especially like a strawberry lemonade or something like that, I am still so thirsty. It doesn't even quench my thirst, right? It doesn't make you feel satisfied and not hungry, and it also just makes you want more of that. Like I can just down those one after the other, and I never get satisfied, and my thirst is not quenched, right? So we want to make sure that if you are a person who has a lot of caloric beverages, that you're swapping that out for some water, right? And so water is like an easy way. It's most of the time it's a low-hanging fruit for people, meaning like it's something that easy that you can kind of focus on. So even when you think about prepping, right, prepping your food doesn't always mean just your food. It can also mean I have my water bottles in the refrigerator ready to go. So whether you're drinking out of a plastic bottle, or if you like the little Yeti cups or the little silver ones, and maybe you might need more than one. So for example, I have my favorite Yeti cup, and that's the cup that I drink out of all the time. But let's say I'm at home all the time. So let's say you work outside your home. You might need a couple different ones so that you can have it at home. You can have one at your desk at work. Like make it easy for you to environmentally get to that, so it'll remind you. Every time I see my Yeti cup, I'm like, okay, time to drink some water, right? So make sure you're just setting yourself up for success to have water. I know sometimes when the weather's not too hot, I will have like bottles of water in my car because I love water. My son is always asking me for water, and sometimes when we go out, he forgets his water, and now I have to stop and go get water. So just having that even just in the car, right? So we want to shoot for about half of our body weight in water. And so I want you to think about, what is your priority, right? It's not that we cannot have lemonade or sweet tea. It's just that if we prioritize water, it will naturally displace the energy that we're spending going and go get a soda, right? So the earlier you start, the better in your day. So as soon as you wake up, especially if you know you have a hard time getting in your water, the earlier you start in your day, the better. So we're shooting for half your body weight in water. So if you are 200 pounds, our goal is about 100 ounces. That's a good goal. It's a little bit high, but if you get close, you're good. Okay. So make sure you start early. Make sure you set up your environment to be successful, and so that you're intentional about it, and that it's easy for you to just grab your water. Make sure you can prep it and just like have it in the refrigerator. Know yourself. If you're the type of person, me personally, I need my water to have lots of ice. I need it to be cold. But for you, it might be like room temperature. Like, I personally don't want to drink no room temperature water. I probably wouldn't drink very much water if all I had was room temp water. But if I have cold water, I feel like I can't get enough of it. I love water, right? Do you like infused water? Do you like sparkling water? Like, whatever it is that you need to do to make sure you're getting that half your body weight in ounces. And then maybe if you get your water in early, well then cool, I get to have a small lemonade, right? But you're prioritizing and eating and drinking intentionally so that you can actually reach your goals and not just go by what your sweet tooth wants at the time and down a whole bunch of sweet tea, right? So make sure that you're prioritizing that. So let me check the chat just in case anybody is saying anything. Room temp for me. Yeah, see, I can't do it. Oh, I can't do that. But whatever works for you, right? Like, whatever works for you, make sure that you're setting up your environment for success. I love water, but I don't drink enough. Right. So if you know you don't drink enough water, it's like, okay, what's my intention? I can start today. Like, literally, you can start today setting an intention like, okay, I'm going to drink X amount of ounces today. And then tomorrow, I'm going to make sure I set up my environment. I'm going to have my bottles of water here, on the counter, and I'm going to take one with me in the car. I'm going to put one in my office so that you can just set that intention to eat more intentionally. Breakfast sausage is processed food of choice in my house. Yes. And we all are going to eat processed foods at some times. I'm definitely not saying never eat processed foods. That is pretty restrictive. Works for some people. I'm probably not going to do that, but I like picking the single ingredient foods is the priority. All right. So talked about single ingredient foods, things without a label. 2, drinking water versus your caloric beverage. So prioritize your water, get in half your body weight in water, and then have your Coke or whatever it is. Another thing I want to say about water too is that if you're trying to break down fat, your body actually needs H2O. It actually needs water for lipolysis, which is the breakdown of fat. So you want to make sure that you're drinking that water. That's another reason why it's very, very important. Okay. So tip number 3 is healthy fat. So a lot of times we don't think about adding fat into our diet in order to lose weight or to reach our goals, but healthy fat is actually super duper important. It is heart and brain protective. So I'm a registered dietitian. I don't just think about the scale. I'm thinking about your heart, your brain, your liver, your kidneys, right? And thinking about all the nutrients that our whole single ingredient foods have. So when you are planning your food, assuming that you are planning out your food, that you're planning in some healthy fat. So things like olives, avocado, chia seeds, flaxseed, coconut, pumpkin seeds, hemp seeds, right? And these are very, very easy to add into your diet. So for example, a lot of times people will if you're trying to lose fat, they'll eat a salad for lunch or something like that, right? I always recommend you have that protein, right? So have some protein, have your salad if you like salad, and then have some healthy fat. So you can add 1/4 of an avocado, okay? 1/4 of an avocado is considered a serving. So I do want you to intentionally add healthy fat. Understand though that healthy fat and I'm going to say unhealthy fat, the fat that clogs our arteries, our trans fat, our saturated fat, both have the same amount of calories, right? So it's the same amount of calories, but one is heart protective and brain protective and the other is not. Okay, but same amount of calories. So you still want to be mindful of how much avocado you're eating, how many olives you're eating, how much chia seeds you're eating, because it still has the same amount of calories. So some of you are under eating. Some of you actually don't eat enough. Healthy fat is how you get to your calorie goal without adding a whole bunch more food that you have to eat. So a lot of times if you have been dieting, if you're a chronic dieter, or you've been fasting all day and you don't eat until 1 o'clock, you might not be hungry for breakfast. But part of what I teach my clients is you can eat more and weigh less if you understand how to put your plate together and if you're moving your body. Okay, so we want to be adding in healthy fat in order to meet our calorie goal, in order to just be healthy overall, right? And so it doesn't add a lot of volume, but you can get in the calories that you need. It also adds fiber, and most people are only getting about half of the fiber that they need for the day. So one of the things that I have my clients do is track their fiber. So this is another way to evaluate your goal, evaluate your plan, to eat intentionally. Let me look at my plan to see what I'm having. Do I have enough fiber? Which for women is about 25 grams is the minimum. Okay, so if we are focusing on single ingredient foods most of the time, like 80% of the time, we should be meeting that fiber goal. Okay, we should be meeting that fiber goal. But if we're not, if we're eating a lot of processed foods, that doesn't have very much fiber. Okay, fiber is going to help you feel fuller longer. For those of you who feel like you're overeaters and are always hungry, or if you're like, you have like a sweets craving or something like that, picking that single ingredient foods that have a lot of fiber helps to kind of squash your hunger. And it also obviously helps with your digestion and to move things along through your digestive tract. Okay, so we want to be adding in some healthy fat. Typically at every meal, you're going to have even like olive oil, right? Like if you're grilling chicken or sauteing some vegetables, you're going to have a little bit of that olive oil or whatever kind of oil you're using, and that's fat, right? So we're probably going to have a little bit of that at each meal. So if you are tracking your food, y'all, don't forget to add that in, because a lot of times clients come in and they're not tracking their fat. They added oil and they're like, oh, it's just a little bit. But 1 tablespoon of oil is like 120 calories. So if you had a little bit of oil for breakfast, for lunch, and for dinner, 120 plus 120 plus 120, that's a lot of calories. So you want to make sure that you're tracking that if you're tracking your macros, y'all. Okay, let me know if this is making sense. Are y'all following me? Let me know in the comments, okay? All right, I'm going to keep going. So we want to plan in single ingredient foods. We want to prioritize water over caloric beverages. We want to have plan in our healthy fat. Another thing that we need to have in our diet in order for us to reach our goals and to look lean and look like you work out is protein. Protein is the most important macronutrient. So things like salmon, chicken, turkey, beef jerky, Greek yogurt, tuna, cottage cheese, eggs, tofu, right? Having products that have added protein. So for example, there's like pasta, like the Banza pasta that has additional protein. There's protein cereal. There's actually protein milk now, like, and obviously like the protein milk and the protein cereal, those are not single ingredient foods, but that can be part of your 20%, right? Where anytime you are struggling getting in your protein, you can think about not just meat, because any kind of meat, whether it's shrimp, chicken, turkey, duck, whatever it is going to have some protein, because you're literally eating animal muscle. Okay? You're literally eating animal muscle, and muscle is made out of protein, mostly. So if you're struggling, if you're a meat eater, right? If you are a meat eater, you have to be strategic, but it's pretty simple to hit your protein goal. But people still are not eating enough. So if you want body recomposition, that means that the scale might not change too much, but I look leaner because I'm working out and I'm eating enough protein, I'm eating enough overall calories, and you start to look leaner and you start to look more compact, that's body recomposition, you have to eat enough protein, right? So stop killing yourself in the gym. As soon as we think about, okay, weight loss, okay, let me get to the gym. And you go in the gym, or you like get into a boot camp or something like that, and now you're killing yourself at the gym, and then you're not eating enough protein. And then it's like, how is your body going to repair itself? How is it going to look leaner if you're not giving it enough protein? Okay, so you need to really eat protein at every single meal and snack. So I know we talked about healthy fat earlier. Peanut butter and nuts and stuff like that has a little bit of protein and mostly fat. So we do not categorize nuts or nut butter as protein. It is fat, even though it has a little bit of protein, right? So think about your breakfast, your lunch, your dinner, and any snacks that you might eat. What protein source are you eating? We need to be planning our meals around our protein source, right? So we need to be having, typically what I tell my clients is 4 to 6 ounces at every meal. So if we're talking about meat, right? 4 to 6 ounces at lunch, 4 to 6 ounces at dinner will give you 30 plus grams of protein per meal, right? Between 20 and like 35, depending on if you do 4 ounces or 6 ounces. So let's just say you need 150 grams of protein at every meal. And I'm really bad at math, so I'm gonna get my calculator out. So let's just say your goal is 150, and I'm going to eat 4 times a day. I need 37 grams of protein at every meal and snack. Because if I'm planning my meals and I'm just kind of going along and I only get 14 grams at breakfast, I'm going to be really short. I'm going to be about 15 to 16 grams short on my protein. So that's your goal. 30 plus grams per meal, you'll hit your protein goal. Okay, so that means, again, we have to be eating intentionally. We have to be eating strategically. So any animal protein, any animal flesh, any animal muscle, right? That's including shrimp, fish, chicken, turkey, tuna, cottage cheese, also eggs, Greek yogurt, things like that, tofu. 30 grams of protein or more per meal and snack, which is about 4 to 6 ounces of that protein. Okay, so this is very, very, very important. I'm gonna go back to the comments. All right, y'all, are y'all still with me? Y'all still with me? All right, I got one. Actually, no, I have one more tip. So we talked about single ingredient foods. We talked about water. We talked about healthy fat. We talked about protein, and then your high fiber carbs. So Laura, I'm going to get to your question here. So high fiber carbs is another go-to, a must-have when you are trying to eat sustainably and you're not like trying to cut out carbs, right? So things like your veggies, your kale, your broccoli, your Brussels sprouts, your snow peas, your spinach, your cabbage, your quinoa, your sweet potatoes, your white potatoes. There's nothing wrong with white potatoes, contrary to popular belief. Your mangoes, your grapes, your bananas, right? So fiber is very beneficial. It's filling. And again, like I said earlier, most of us are not getting enough. So we need to be focusing that 80%, remember, on not only single ingredient foods, but also high fiber carbohydrates. So here are the tips that I give my clients for eating carbohydrates, because there's really not any carbohydrates that I exclude at all. So we want to make sure that when we're picking carbohydrates, that they have 3 grams of fiber or more. So obviously, if you're eating broccoli or spinach or bananas, it already has fiber, right? Those are our single ingredient foods. That's what we want to prioritize. So you don't have to worry about how much fiber it has in there. But I'm more so talking about like the English muffins, your bread, your waffle, your pancakes type of thing. We want to make sure when we're going to the grocery store, we're flipping the box over and we're saying, okay, how many grams of fiber does this have? So like look through a few options, a few brands in the grocery store. Does this carbohydrate, this bread, have 3 grams of fiber or more? If it does, great. So those are the ones that you want to prioritize. So when you evaluate your plan, we want to make sure, do my carbohydrates have 3 grams of fiber or more? Am I planning in 3 or more servings of vegetables? Those Brussels sprouts, kale, broccoli, spinach, cabbage, right? Do I have fruit, right? So this is another standard that you need to be looking at when you plan your food. Do I have single ingredient foods? Do I have 3 grams of fiber or more? Do I have veggies? Do I have fruit, right? Am I drinking a lot of my calories? So we have to evaluate what that looks like, okay? So another way that you can eat carbs and still reach your goals is to couple or to plan your higher carb meals around a workout or even around a walk, right? So let's say I know I want to work out in the morning, like right after my breakfast. So maybe I eat breakfast and I have a higher carb meal at breakfast, but I'm going to go work out right after that, right? And it's not, I don't want you to get into the point where it's like, I can only eat carbs if I'm going to work out. That's kind of toxic, but it's just more of a strategy of carbohydrates are easy fuel for my body. So when do I want to prioritize this fuel? Oh, I want to prioritize it when I'm going to go and spend some energy at the gym or at your boot camp or taking a walk or wherever you're doing. So you can have your higher carb meals right before your workout or right after your workout. So maybe you're doing it midday and you have a lunch, you have a higher carb meal, you plan that in, and then maybe a higher carb snack right after that. So you want to put your carbohydrates around that workout so that it is utilizing it for fuel, right? Instead of storing it for later. And fat is how we store energy for later. Okay. So that is way number 2. So you want to have 3 grams of fiber or more. You want to couple or plan your meals around your activity, your high carb meals around your activity. We also just want to portion. So just because it has 3 grams of fiber or more doesn't mean we can have as much as we want. It means that let me have 1 serving. And typically 1 serving is about a half a cup. So if you think about like white potatoes, for example, there's nothing wrong with having white potatoes, right? But a half a cup. So I really want you to be like measure it out for a while and see what half a cup looks like on your plate. Okay, so portion control, that half a cup coupled with your protein, because I told you got to have protein in every single solitary meal and snack, right? So we got 3 grams of fiber or more. We are portioning it out at half a cup portions, and we are planning our higher carb meals around our activity. And then there's one more tip, but I always forget the last one. Those are 3 great ones. If I remember the 4th one, I will let you know because I always forget the 4th one. So your big takeaways, okay? Your big takeaways are this. Oh, I just remembered the 4th one. The 4th one is to have your carbs with a protein, right? So have your carbs with a protein and or a healthy fat. So for example, like a lot of times, like we'll just have like an apple for a snack, which is fine. But you always, always, always want to pair a carbohydrate like your fruit with a protein and or a healthy fat, which again, you need that protein because otherwise you're going to be short on your protein. So I would just have some beef jerky, have your Greek yogurt or something like that to pair with it. So that is how you can eat your bread still, Laura, and still see results. Those are the 4 ways. Okay. Let me know if you have questions about that. All right. So big takeaway here is plan your meals, right? You can be very strategic, but all of what I said, you can try to go meal by meal and fly by the seat of your pants and figure that out. However, you're going to be more successful if you plan it out. Even if you're not tracking macros in MyFitnessPal, even if you're not doing all of that, simply writing it down and following the guidelines can be super duper helpful. Okay. And if you need help creating that plan, if you need help to reach your fitness goals, you know that like you might have a deficit a little bit in terms of like understanding nutrition, but you know you also need a lot of help with your self-confidence, your imposter syndrome, your negative self-talk, I invite you to apply to work with me inside the Fit Figure Formula. The link should be in the comments, also should be in the description. And the Fit Figure Formula is my 16-week program where I teach you macros, I coach on mindset, and we are in week 11. But I think we're in week 11 or 12 in this cohort. And what I do is I teach you how to get really confident in planning your own meals, how to manage your own brain, how to manage your habits. If you struggle with emotional eating or cravings for sugar, like I'm going to teach you strategically how to kind of mitigate that, but I'm also going to teach you how to think powerful thoughts so that you are in control of your destiny. So one of my favorite quotes is, the best way to predict the future is to create it. You can do whatever you put your mind to. If you put your mind to it, which means you got to spend some energy, spend some time thinking powerful thoughts. Okay, so let me check the chat one more time. If y'all have questions, y'all can let me know. Let's see. Hi, Tawana. Carbs for breakfast right after morning. Yes, it is fine. All right, y'all. I don't see any questions. Y'all let me know if you watch the replay. Let me know if this is helpful. Let me know if you have any questions about foods that you should be planning in. And of course, if you want to join the Fit Figure Formula, or if you have questions about what it looks like to be coached by a registered dietitian, a personal trainer, and a mindset transformation coach inside of my program, then you can message me or you can apply with the link in the profile. Okay? All right, y'all. Until next time, I'll see you soon.